Welcome to the final round of the BL Blitz 2024 in the Challengers section. We have Salem Saleh, who is in tremendous form here. 8 out of 9 before this final round against Vaishali. Will Vaishali be able to stop him? D4, knight f6, and Salem goes c4, and Vaishali plays c5. Ooh, it's the Benko Gambit, and black gives up a pawn to create two open files on the queen side here, and this is very exciting. Knight c3, d6, e4. Vaishali captures the bishop. White loses the right to castle, but in return there is always this very interesting compensation. You have an extra pawn. Now pawn push to a4, queen a5. This is all theory, well known stuff. Queen e2 played. Maybe the more accurate move is rook e1 instead of queen e2, but Salem is in his prep perhaps. Generally, the way in which black creates play here is to put the rook on the b file, put pressure down the b line, and also uses bishop here. Rook f b8 played. Salem very quickly goes rook a3, and now the knight jumps back to e8. Where is this knight heading to? Maybe just to c7, so that whenever white knight comes here you can trade it off. Well, he does play his knight to b5, and Vaishali plays her knight to c7. Benko's compensation is very long term. For example, if you take here, which Salem does, queen takes, now b3 played, so the rooks can actually double down the b file, put pressure on these pawns. But it feels like in the modern day, with the engines favoring white and players coming very well prepared, Benko has lost its sting. And here you can see Vaishali feeling the pressure somehow because of Salem's speed of play. She goes rook b7, which is the natural move. You want to double the rooks to put pressure here. At the same time, you are trying to find a good place for the knight. I think a good idea could be to break c4 at the right time, so that the knight could get the c5 square. Now a queen comes to c2, and this can be a very interesting pawn sacrifice, like c4 takes, and then you put your knight this way. Vaishali goes rook b8. She's not going for this pawn sacrifice ideas, but she's putting her pressure down on the c file, on the b file, and Salem goes for h4. Ooh, well, is there an attack possible? Vaishali says not really. She plays her pawn to h5, and now bishop to g5, hitting the e7 pawn. Knight jumps to e5. So you can see Vaishali is exchanging the pieces. Here Salem could take on e5, but he could also go back to d2, which is an interesting move. He takes, bishop takes, and now where do you put your rook? Because the rook on h1 needs to come into the game. He first brings his bishop back to d2. One of the ideas that white should be aiming for in such positions is to successfully engineer the b4 break. Right now it's not really possible, but at some point it could be. How should Vaishali play here? Maybe just queen d7 coming into g4 is one idea. Just putting your bishop on d4. She has to wait a bit here. Yeah, queen d7 played. Queen comes to d3, and this is a big mistake because bishop b2 and rook takes b3 is just winning back the pawn with a great position, but Vaishali misses it. She misses this move. Salem had blundered, but Vaishali blunders back. Rook b1 played, and now maybe you take here. Vaishali's time is down to 1 minute 22 seconds. She goes back with her queen to c8. Maybe c4 is on her mind, so queen c4 played, and now e takes d5. Good move, because if you play e takes d5, the queen jumps out to f5, hitting the rook and getting a lot of counterplay. So Salem actually needs to take with the queen, but then could you just push your pawn to c4? This is getting quite intense. Let's see what Salem does here. He's definitely calculating e takes d5 because he doesn't want the queen to leave that square, but is unhappy with queen f5 move that's coming in. And that is really quite an irritating move. Not only do you hit the bishop, if you move the rook, bishop b2 comes in. There's also bishop d4 putting pressure here on f2 square. And this is not an easy position for suddenly white to play, and this shows essentially why Benko Gambit is such a good weapon in blitz, because even though white was clearly better, there were a lot of things, little nuances to take care of, which was not so easy. Now c4 pawn push seems like the right move here. Vaishali calculating, pushing the pawn, a good move there. And now if you play b4 here, then c3 is a very strong move, and then b4 is hanging, so that is not a good idea. He goes rook c1, he pins the pawn on the c file. Vaishali must push the pawn even further with the help of her bishop. She's thinking a bit, maybe calculating if rook takes b3 works out. But rook takes b3, rook takes b3, rook takes, and then rook takes c4 gives white a clear advantage. So Vaishali pushes her pawn to c3, and now bishop comes to e3 when the rook can actually slide into b4 square. Goes rook c7, a5 pushed, queen comes out to a6, and in fact here this move rook c7 by Vaishali wasn't the best. Rook b4 was the better move, but now a5, queen a6, and goes rook c2. In fact, bishop b6 was an idea to definitely pursue, but now rook b4. Great move here by Vaishali. Can she find it? Because rook b4 puts real pressure in the position. She goes rook b7, and now the bishop somehow settles in. And this has become very passive position for black now. And I think Salem really understands that he is in the driver's seat now. Yes, Vaishali has a very strong pawn on c3, but it's not going anywhere. Vaishali sacrifices an exchange here. Queen takes b6, and maybe now rook c4 is a very stable move. Yes, that's what he plays. 34 seconds to Salem, just a few seconds left for Vaishali. Oh, takes on c3, a very practical decision to go into an endgame where you are a pawn up, but maybe there were better ways to play for white. Rook e8 played. Now Vaishali has good drawing chances. How about rook f3, putting pressure on the f7 pawn? Now Salem has 20 seconds on the clock. He has to decide between rook coming to f3 or rook going to c6. Plays rook to c6. Vaishali comes to b4. Rook takes pawn. Queen takes e4. Takes. This should be a draw. This should be a draw. You have 3 pawns each on the king side and 1 additional pawn here. Rook e1 maybe not the best. Rook b4 was much better, but Vaishali wanted to go behind the passer, and now she does get there, but the pawn has advanced a lot. Oh, this is not a great move because now the king can come out. King e3, king f6, and f4 played. Check. Where do you go with your king? Tough decision. King d4. Vaishali goes and attacks the g3 pawn. Salem can actually put the rook on g5. Later on try for f5 break. Yes, he plays. But now rook b4 check. And this is the best way to defend. Now rook c1 check. She plays it. Vaishali finds the best defensive move, but not rook a1. She had to go rook b1 check. And now rook e5. Rook attacks the pawn. Rook comes back, and now this is winning because the rook's position has been improved. King c5. Check here. King d5. And now Salem gets the rook behind the pawn. This is exactly what he wanted. And the king is going on the other side. Vaishali is not going to be able to hold this any longer because now Everything is tremendously active. Zugzwang time now. The king has to move or the rook, and the pawn keeps moving forward. You can see there, and Vaishali has to resign. A fine end there, but a very important moment in this game. It's very nice to see them both smiling and analyzing. Here, rook b1 check, and one might think, oh, but what happens if the king gets here? Well, the problem is f6, trapping the rook on this file, and after rook takes g6, you go king c5, attacking this pawn. Not at all easy to see it here. And after this, it's a checkmate, so that's why you have to move your king. Rook takes b5, rook takes f6, rook b3, rook b3, rook g6, and this leads to a very interesting endgame, which I guess it's a draw because the king is cut off here, and it's a draw.